In 2008, YouTube hosted their inaugural live event, which they creatively called YouTube Live. Hosted by a variety of both YouTube and mainstream celebrities, the event was going to be the first of many annual live spectaculars, IRL internet variety shows with live music, comedy, dancing, magicians, and more. But the first YouTube Live was also the last, with the recording of the event scrubbed from the platform. This is a live event YouTube wants to forget, but we found a recording and we watched the whole thing. Welcome to Rewind Time. This episode, YouTube Live.
Yeah, it's rewind time.
Welcome to Rewind Time, a YouTube history podcast where we examine a noteworthy YouTuber, their channel, and the videos that made them part of YouTube history. I am here with YouTuber Lucy Livin.
Hello.
Lucy, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
I am well, and my name is Max. I am your other host, someone who has not watched much YouTube, if any, at all. This week, a switch up in format because we're not looking at a particular YouTuber. We are examining the YouTube Live event, which we have found a re-upload of. Graciously, an archivist out there has put it up for everyone's viewing pleasure.
Yeah, for prosperity.
Yeah, I actually think this has been like a cringe channel like piece of content, and people have done watch throughs of this because I see in the comments a lot of people are like, shout out if you're here from like ex YouTubers like stream
like
of
people.
this. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, we're lucky enough to have a copy of this, and we've spoken about YouTube Live quite a bit in our previous 18 or so episodes.
Yes, we've been focusing on, those early OG YouTubers, and it's definitely come up a few times where they've been like, I'm going to be at YouTube Live, and they're doing like the promos and the teaser, and we're like, what is this mythical YouTube Live of which you speak?
Yeah, well, you didn't watch it at the time, right?
No.
You were into YouTube in 2008, or
I would have
still
been 2008. I would have been like 13.
11? Oh, 13,
right?
okay.
You don't know. No,
You're
97.
Oh, okay, we will say your age, okay.
Well, no, I would have been 12.
11.
What?
97, 2008, 11 years later.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry,
thank you.
I can't do math.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was still in the beginning of my YouTube journey. So I was not aware of YouTube Live, but the important thing is that I'm aware of it now, and we got to watch it, and it's, yeah. Should we just get right into it? And
let's ask me if I knew about YouTube
Oh,
Live.
sorry. So sorry. Did you know about YouTube Live?
I did not.
Okay.
But I think, interestingly, I actually did recognize all of the celebrities that were at this event.
You mean the mainstream celebrities?
Yes.
Okay.
But also some of the YouTubers, because of like their OG sort of status, I actually think maybe I knew more YouTubers from this era than I do from sort of later on ones. Yeah.
Okay.
Like Charlie the Unicorn.
That's one.
Well, Burnham, he's a YouTuber.
No,
but I only learned
okay.
about that though.
All
Okay,
right.
maybe I'm overestimating.
Okay.
Maybe it's just the mainstream celebs. But let's get into it. The opening and sort of the biggest get, I would say, for this live event is Katy Perry, Pop Princess. We're off album Cycle 1. What's that one called? All the Boys, something like that?
One of the Boys? I think I had that album. I was an early Katy cat.
Yeah, so she performs Hot and Cold, right, to open the show?
Yeah, everyone, for our Australian listeners, of course, made famous by the MasterChef theme song, MasterChef Australia. Did you knew that?
Hot and cold, because food
Cooking.
is sometimes hot and cold.
And they do the intro, and it's like so iconic because it's like, because you're hot, then you're cold. And everyone's like turning around, they're whisking things, and they're doing the smile to the camera with as the super of their name comes up.
For all of our international audience, you also maybe have MasterChef.
You guys have MasterChef.
Yeah.
You know what we're talking about. So, yeah, Hot and Cold is the Australian MasterChef theme song, which is so slay.
Katy comes out, shot starts from backstage. She has some sort of like stilted interactions with some
random YouTubers
walking down onto the stage and does her performance. And the performance is like pretty classic Katy Perry.
It's really good.
Like, they obviously, I'm not sure if she got the check for this, but she really put all her effort into the performance, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, she's currently doing the Katy Perry Lifetimes tour. How do we think this compares?
I think that, it's tough. I think that peak Katy is probably one album later, like Teenage Dream.
Yeah, I agree.
And the stuff I've seen from the current tour, maybe...
Yeah. Well, she didn't have a zip line for this.
Yeah, I don't think the zip line is actually something that adds... it's more of something that we maybe are enjoying, ironically. But, yeah, no, like Katy slays this. It's a strong opening.
I love Katy Perry.
I'm like, why do people think this thing is like a train wreck, right?
Yes.
Like, Katy Perry is the opening,
Yeah.
you know, let's go.
So far, so good.
Yeah, then we start to go off the rails because we're introduced to 5 hosts. For a 2-hour event, 5 hosts.
Crazy work.
Yes, and I'll read you their names because I don't think we were familiar with any of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
So this was interesting because, yeah, I was like, okay, maybe we missed.
Yeah, okay, so there's Michael Buckley,
Okay.
William Sled,
Mm-hmm.
Lisa Nova,
Mm-hmm.
Cater's 17.
Yep.
There's someone else I couldn't even catch their name, but she's British, right? Or is that
No,
Cater's?
I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there's Taze on Day.
Taze on Day is like the MC. I do think there was a 5th person
Wait,
on that
what?
stage. Yeah.
So there's like 6 hosts.
Potentially, yeah.
What?
Yeah,
so you know what it gives? It gives like when you are doing a middle school like musical.
It's honestly, no, it's like university group assignment.
No.
And everyone has to speak at least one line.
No, I was thinking it gives like when you're in like school and you don't want to have like one person who gets the lead role because it makes the other kids feel bad. So there's like 5 like Elphabas and everyone gets to sing one Elphaba song. Although I will say of our 5 hosts, I think 2 of them do like multiple sections and then there are some of them where I feel like I swear one of them never spoke. I could be wrong.
I think it might be the one we just don't even know her name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to her. So sorry. Sorry to this woman. But yeah, it's an interesting choice to have 5 MCs. And look, yeah, interesting as well because I don't think any of them do they have hosting? Some of them you can tell who they give like more work to because they have like the stronger hosting acumen. Let's put it that way. And then the other ones they're like, and you can also be there and read off the teleprompter.
Yeah. Michael and William give comedy YouTube because they're up there doing bits for the rest of the sort of show and we'll get into some of their subject matter. And the girlies are sort of doing like the green room stuff.
Yeah, Lisa Nova does multiple different characters and I think that's also why we got confused because she comes out in like multiple different like outfits and because we're not familiar with her I don't think we recognized that it was her like multiple different times. But so yeah, she's doing like improv character work which is I think it's successful at times and then other times in particular a certain segment with Katy Perry it comes off a little questionable. But that's the nature of live.
Yeah, I think famously doing live event hosting, you really need to like err on the side of caution with your comedy because if you do a joke and no one laughs, that's obviously incredibly psychic damaging.
Yes, yeah, which is, I think maybe, I think is it the downfall of YouTube Live is that it's live, and YouTube historically at this point in 2008. YouTube not a live platform.
Honestly, at this point, I was still on board.
Yeah,
right?
No. At this point, they are like, here are our 5 hosts and then also Taze on Day. And you're like, okay, that's a lot of hosts.
Yeah.
But you're like, okay, they're bringing out like all the fan favorites and everyone's really excited. The cheers, the audience is really into it. It's a big audience too. It's hosted in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So this big like it's like kind of a warehouse type of vibe. It's very cool.
They back it up with a one in Tokyo as well that we have not watched. But
we haven't seen that one.
There was like the San Fran segment and then they did a Tokyo segment.
To Tokyo. Yeah.
And I think given our English speaking bias, we don't know who was at Tokyo YouTube Live and we haven't seen anyone there or any record of it really.
No.
But I imagine it was focused on Japanese YouTubers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
There we
assume
go.
so. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so following our host introduction, Taze on Day as MC. Obviously, we have done an episode on Taze on Day.
Amazing
and
voice.
are big fans. Probably the best choice of MC out of any of the wider YouTube community.
His voice is so recognizable. There's multiple times in this broadcast where he's like doing the like the cross or kind of the transition bit and you don't see him but you immediately like that's Taze on Day. He's a really great voice and he is very professional, I would say, in this production. if anything goes wrong here, it's not Tay.
Yeah, honestly, if this had been a continuing series, I could really imagine him being like
the guy.
The MC every year. Like
I
a continuing
so agree.
role.
I so agree.
But we go into the first of our like YouTube community music performances, and this show very heavy on live music, which is interesting. Something that like comes across well in like a concert space like this is, but not what I would describe as like, and maybe that's just our bias in picking YouTubers, but I wouldn't be like, when I think of YouTube in this era, I think of musical performances.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it might have been in that era where YouTube was still kind of figuring out what its lane was, or like where it was meant to be. And I think they were probably, I think like YouTube has tried to break into like the music space. And ironically, it's only now recently where I feel like they're really trying to make a claim to compete with, you know, your Spotify. But this was 2008, so Spotify didn't even exist, did it?
No.
Wasn't a thing. So
I guess still pirating music or iTunes.
Yeah, so they were kind of trying to, I guess, compete. Well, are they competing with iTunes? I don't know. They do, and we'll get to it later, but they're trying to make it that YouTube is like the place for people to be discovered across industry, whether it's YouTube comedy, whatever. So
yeah, I would say a theme of this overall is that even YouTube did not really even know what the platform was, and they were like, we're just going to throw everything in, because they then cut, and some of our notes here are pretty scattershot because this copy is uploaded probably in the original resolution, which is something like 480.
Yeah, it's very low res.
Yeah, so there are parts of this where we actually, and I imagine this was the same for the viewers at the time, just given how like basic live streaming technology was, where you like can't really tell what's going on. It's giving like last season of Game of Thrones. It's like, this is a dark auditorium. There's all this black crush and they're talking about things and you're like, I can't see anything. I can't read the supers. But we crossed to something called YouTube Air, and it's a live cross of a bunch of YouTubers on a plane. But the pixelation in the plane, because it's a cross from a plane to a live event to YouTube, it's so pixelated. You're like, I have no idea who's on this plane.
We're talking like 144p.
Yeah, the host is like, I'm here with this girl from 30 Rock.
There was two cast members from 30 Rock. I think I knew
You've
who one
seen
of them
30
was.
Rock and you're like, I can't recognize who this woman is.
Who's this woman?
Because she's just a square on the screen.
Well, it wasn't like Tina Fey or Jane Krakowski or any. So they were just like, it's this woman. And I was like, who?
And they spin it into a YouTuber who I didn't recognize. He does reenactments. And so he does a reenactment of the interrogation scene from The Dark Knight. The one where it's like, where are they? You know, that type of stuff.
I didn't know what I'll do if I got one.
Yeah.
Like the Joker and Batman interrogate. Yeah.
And look, honestly, I give him, maybe he was the first person to like do a meme about this scene.
What's crazy about the impersonation guy is, and I think what you're trying to get to, is that he's actually quite good at the impersonations. Like, I think they're pretty solid. But the thing is, he's good enough that, so then it's like, it's not funny because they're not very good, but he is also still clearly just like in his kitchen, like doing the face, like it's sort of in that weird, like liminal space where it's like, it's not cringe, which is, it doesn't have to be, but it's also not like, he's not like the best actor you've ever seen. So it's just like the idea of,
but even if he was, it would just be like, okay, well, you're just doing like a show reel demo. Like, why am I watching this?
I guess it's the kind of early YouTube. It's like, you know, it's sort of like with many art pieces where you look at something on the wall and you go, I could do that. And it's like, but you didn't, and he did. I think it's like that. He's like the first person who said, what if I just uploaded me doing a scene?
Yeah, look, it's crazy. And I also am like, the fact they pre-filmed this, I'm like, it's only two guys. Couldn't he have just done this live with like another person? Like, isn't this YouTube live? Like, we're already throwing to the pre-filmed content,
yeah.
And this is just for like one scene where I was just like, oh, okay, sure.
And also they're like, it was like a big reveal, being like, I think it voted by the fans. Like, it was like, everyone was like, we want you to do The Dark Knight. It was like a guys, everyone's been asking for this, and I was like, what? But you know, shout out, he does a good job. One has to wonder why, but again, you know, he did it first, and so props to him.
Following from The Dark Knight, this is like such tonal whiplash. We get a segment on one man who's otherwise known as the free hugs guy. So if you guys don't know, he just think there's a man, he holds up a sign that says free hugs, and naturally you can hug him for free, right? I was aware of the free hugs guy
is like
from
a concept.
cultural, like sort of a campaign. I didn't know anything about it though. Did you know about free hugs?
I just knew that it was like a thing that people did. And so you imagine that like one guy had to be, it's the kind of video that would be set to black and white music and maybe like Where Is the Love by the Black Eyed Peas would play.
Yeah, so you didn't know that free hugs was started by a guy who uses the pseudonym One Man, and he started it in Sydney in the Pitt Street Mall.
No. And so they cut and they're showing like footage of, guys, if you didn't know, we live in Sydney. We regularly go to the Pitt Street Mall, I would say. Probably once a month, as you do in the CBD. And we were watching the video. We went, we know where that is.
Yeah, just for context, the Pitt Street Mall isn't like a shopping centre. It is a pedestrian mall. It's like a street that you can walk down with shops on either side.
It's an open-air street in the middle of the CBD.
Yeah.
I did not know the free hugs thing started in Sydney.
No, here's the thing. So the segment is backed onto by a band performance. So the band is also Australian. They're called Sick Puppies, and they were the people that put the free hugs guy in their music video, and that is the video that achieved virality and like spread the free hugs campaign
movement
worldwide. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the free hugs campaign as a platform? You know,
I think it is not. I basically have no deeper analysis than it is perfectly okay for you to have a banner that says free hugs and offer free hugs to strangers if that is your desire, right? Am I going to accept a free hug from a stranger? Of course not. But does that mean that I think that it's, has any sort of malicious or deep meaning or anything like that? Like, not really. Like, it seems like he did it with like really quite good intentions and like, it's a nice feel-good story.
Yeah, I think it's
Would you accept a free hug from one?
Oh, the thing is, and maybe, this was a purer time. In 2008, if someone was doing free hugs, I'd be like, oh, that's like a nice thing. And they're doing it like genuinely. Whereas now I'd be afraid that I'd be filmed by like some TikTok kid with like a broccoli haircut. Like the amount of times I've been like walking through the city and, someone comes up to you and is like, can I ask you a question? You're like, no, because I don't want to be in a TikTok. Or that time when that guy rollerbladed in front of me and asked me if I was alone. Anyway, that was
actually just you looking at the history, the New South Wales police were like, you need to stop offering free hugs because you don't have liability insurance for like $25 million, which is like a very like cop-coded thing to do.
Yeah. But anyway,
so we have a live performance from the band. Yep. One is there. He does not have like a public presence now. So I think this was sort of this and the Oprah show were like the culmination of the free hugs campaign.
Yeah.
So shout out our fellow Australian. But we move on to the Will It Blend channel.
Yes.
And its host, the CEO, I believe, of the Blender company.
Yeah. It's Blendtech.
Blendtech. There you go.
Will It Blend.
Yeah. So I've never seen Will It Blend.
Yeah.
And I think we might cover it because looking at the videos, I was like, oh, this is actually... And they do a live blend. I was like, this is really cool. Wow, he really do just be blending stuff.
Well, you were like, oh, this whole thing... Like, again, you didn't know. And you were like, oh, so this guy just puts things in a blender. But I was like, no, it's the Blender company. Like, he's the CEO of the Blender company. And he's trying to be like, my blenders are the best blenders.
Yeah.
And you're like, kind of swag. And in this segment, he decides to blend Chad Vader's broom.
Yes.
Do we know who Chad Vader is?
Chad Vader is a comedy character that had his own web series in the 2000s. I know of this from Googling Chad Vader on seeing him in this YouTube live. I have never seen or heard of anything including Chad Vader in it.
From what I know, looking at the channel, it's a guy in like a Darth Vader suit, which I guess, again, it's 2008 and it's like, I can be the first guy to be in a Darth Vader suit doing this. And he just like recreates viral videos or like kind of does, it's like parody stuff. Again, it's a comedy thing.
Vader AI in Fortnite, kind of like
Chad Vader.
A descendant of Chad Vader.
Yeah, so true.
He's kind of the originator of Star Wars Vader being naughty stuff.
Yeah. And I guess it's funny,
Is it?
No, I don't know. It's like, is it funny to see Chad, like Darth Vader at the grocery store doing
Not
like
really,
mundane
bro.
things? Oh, like, but is it funny in 2008 if you've like never seen any other memes?
Some people.
Maybe.
Honestly, if you found it funny then, you'd probably find it funny now.
Anyway, shout out to Chad Vader. So he has a broom and they blend the broom very successfully though. So shout out to
I know. So I was actually quite excited because I had a high-powered blender phase a few years ago, and it ended with me buying like a Vitamix, which shout out Vitamix. But I was looking at this guy's blender series, and I was like, well, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe Vitamix is actually not as powerful as this guy's blender. He was literally blending like non-food items. No, not impressed.
No, I think it is good. No, I watched Will It Blend, so we can definitely cover them.
I definitely think they will be worthy of an episode.
Okay.
We then move forward onto a Charlie the Unicorn pre-recorded animation.
Yes.
And it's one we did talk about in the Charlie the Unicorn episode, so give that a listen if you haven't. But the short itself is actually quite funny.
I think at this point, we're about half an hour to 45 minutes into YouTube Live. Obviously we're just breezing through these segments, but some of them are quite lengthy. And seeing our friend Charlie the Unicorn with a really great tight bit, it was like a spot of light in the dark. Like we were both like, oh, how good is Charlie the Unicorn? They do the and we're like, yep, banger.
There
So
is a
good.
lot of that in this where, like, for example, they do a William Sled. It's a lot of audience interaction piece before this with the YouTuber Hot for Words, who has a very interesting story that I encourage you guys to look up independently.
Yeah.
But Burnham is also there in the background, and he legitimately looks like so depressed. Like and we'll get to his segment, and I know we spoke about it recently on his episode, but I do think that being in person at this event is what caused Bo Burnham to be like, I'm not going to be a YouTuber. Like, I'm retiring.
I need to get out of here.
Yeah, this is sick.
Yeah, that initial William Sled segment he actually does a pretty good job, but it is just like what happens at live events when you do like crowd interaction and it's not planned, which I guess is, you want it to be off the cuff and stuff like that, but then you also run the risk of like people just staring at you blankly as you're trying to get a response from them. A highlight for me in this section was William Sled goes up to two small children. They're like two young girls. They look to be about like 9, something like that. And
Average Fred fan.
And he asks them questions. He then does not point the microphone towards them when they answer, so you can't really hear what they're saying. And then he asks them who their favorite YouTuber was, and they go to speak. And rather than like waiting for them, he's like, me? Yeah, thanks so much. Like,
I actually think he covered up what appeared to be a bit of an L for him in choosing audience interaction, because these girls, I'm sorry, like,
well, they're children.
They're very cute.
They're very cute.
Yeah, they're not giving question and answer format.
I think other people, like, shout out to William Sled, because other people, I think, in this segment, you could take real psychic damage, and but he played it off very well. I feel he covered the awkwardness.
Yeah,
so.
And honestly, it's not really his fault, because you'd imagine if you're a big enough YouTube fan to be going to YouTube Live, you could give an answer to the question, who is your favorite YouTuber?
Yeah, well, they're having a think. They're like, and then he's like, me. Okay.
But we move on, and there is then a guitar performance that seems to go for like 10 years, which the introduction is someone playing Guitar Hero, which, of course, Plastic Instruments was like a big 2000s
giving
thing.
Spawn?
I don't even know. I think he was playing on like expert mode, so I think he was probably a content creator. But it does, lead into just this endless musical performance, which is one of many that we'll talk about. And we briefly have a couch segment with a combination of MC Hammer and Dax Flame. Dax Flame doesn't get a word in, but they ask MC Hammer a few bits about like, who is your favorite YouTuber? And he's like, well, there's so many great YouTubers, which is a classic like political answer, and he clearly is like not clued into anything on YouTube at all.
I couldn't tell if he was like doing a bit, because he like kept pausing between his like lines, but it didn't seem like he was reading them off a teleprompter. It was very bizarre. especially as well as Dax Flame just sat there and like stares like into the camera. I believe Dax Flame at this time is like a child, like a young boy, and he just like looks at the camera like.
Yeah, it's giving that they had originally planned to have him say something, but then the director is like, "We're out of time. Like, move on, move on."
Too long between. Like he'd be like, "Well, you know, there's so many great YouTubers." It's like that. It's very stilted and weird. And even the host, you can tell she's like, you know, when your smile starts to like falter, it's like starts to glitch out a bit. Yeah, and then. Yeah, throw back to Tazon Day or whoever the next segment is, and Dax Flame is just sitting there.
The next segment is actually Return to Celebrity because we have the MythBusters, Adam and Jamie, come out and do a piece of, I believe, sponsored content for Nvidia, which is now like one of the world's most valuable companies, but at that point was just like the company that made graphics card and had like sexy elves on the packaging. And they're like, we're going to like do some sort of MacGuffin where like this giant paintball gun represents the power of the GPU. And it is just an excuse to get Jamie out wearing a suit of armor and they shoot him with a giant paintball gun.
Yeah, I think it was like a follow-up to like they were using the same piece of equipment they'd used like previously on an episode that had been quite popular. I mean, MythBusters was really popular. Did you ever watch MythBusters?
I did not watch a lot of TV as covered, but I have seen a few episodes of MythBusters.
Yeah. I've seen quite a bit of MythBusters. It's pretty good.
Yeah. When the MythBusters segment started, you were like, oh, it's so sad because obviously like Jamie is dead. And I was like, what? I was like, Jamie has died? And you're like, yeah, he died.
I'm
and
sorry.
I was like, oh yeah, I feel like I remember something about that. That's crazy. Yeah, that's sad. Anyway. And then of course, as the segment went on, I was like, oh, what did he die of? So I Googled him and naturally saw his Wikipedia page where he's very much alive. And then I was like, oh, so sorry, Adam must be dead. And then I was like, oh man, sad that Adam is dead. And I looked at his Wikipedia page and of course he is still alive. Also a YouTuber, by the way.
Yeah.
Out of interest.
Yeah.
But no, actually, there was two of the other crew members in the team that have sadly passed away. Yeah, so essentially in like 2 minutes, I went through the grieving process for both of the MythBusters and they actually went out dead. So thanks for that.
Yeah. Sorry. I got confused. My wires got crossed. I knew someone from MythBusters had passed away and that it was really sad. And so when they came on, I just, connected the dots in the wrong way. It's very YouTube Live of me to get that wrong.
We continue with a segment of sports montage clips.
Bruh.
And you're like, what is this? And I think it was a case of them being like, basically copyright infringing highlight clips from sports are popular on YouTube, but we can't obviously show or do anything with that because we don't have the rights to any of this. So they just showed various like 3-second clips of like a 2006 Messi like kicking a soccer ball and we're just like, go sports. And it was like complete waste of time, IMO, but it did allow us to then introduce, they were like, okay, now we're doing like the live sports component. And they're like, it's going to be speed stacking.
Oh.
And I was like, what is speed stacking? And you were like, oh, I know what this is.
Yeah, I did know what it was. They decided though, because like children and like anyone can do it's a sport, anyone can do it, but they decided that they would have child contestants.
Yeah, can you just tell everyone that doesn't know what speed stacking, what it is?
I'm not like an expert on speed stacking, but basically speed stacking is where you stack and unstack plastic cups to a timer. And I believe
it's like very pitch perfect.
You're doing like cup song vibes. No, but you're trying to do like formations of cups. Like I guess it's sort of like cup gymnastics in that like in a certain period you're trying to hit a pyramid with this and then you're trying to hit a 4 stack with 3 stack or whatever. I need everyone to specifically watch the cup stacking segment from YouTube Live because up until this point, I feel like even though there was some weirdness of the live, nature of it, I was like no weirder than like any type of live event broadcast, at the time. But I feel like this specific segment is where we started to take a turn into like more of that that chaos. Like this segment.
Yep. Again, though, it's because they relied on children
Why do they do that?
carry their live event.
I don't know. Were those children, like, did they go viral for a video?
I think
of
they
them?
must
They
have.
must
yeah.
have.
But
surely.
to give context, there's 2 kids. They have a rehearsed speed stacking like routine. Where they build cups and then they pass them between each other and so on and so forth. However, the kid on the
Right.
audience's right continually from the get-go is just messing up his cup performance. He's dropping cups, he's knocking the tower over, and the way they've got it set up is you have a big excess stack on the right of like extra cups, because in case you knock your cup off the table, you don't have to like run after it, right?
And I imagine in speed stacking, like, it would happen all the time.
Yeah,
like,
you're trying to go
make
fast.
mistakes. Yeah.
Admittedly, for a live non-competitive performance, I probably would have gone at a speed that I was comfortable not making a mistake, but hey, they wanted to be speedy.
It's speed stacking.
And eventually the kid manages to not only knock his normal cups off the table, but he knocks his extra cup stand over as well. And the other kid next to him is just waiting for them to start the next part of the routine. You can just see him looking at him being like, bruh, you're stitching me up so hard here.
It's so the secondhand like pain and like empathy you feel for that child, because you can see he's getting like distressed. Like, he knows the first time it happens, you're like, oh, but he kind of recovers. But it's sort of like the damage, the psychic damage gets to him throughout the performance, and it just keeps going and he keeps knocking things over. And yeah, the other kid just looking at him almost with like, I don't want to say disdain. I'm not going to put that on a child, but he's looking at him being like, bro, we rehearsed this. Like, come on. But again, that's what happens when they said, we're going to work with children and we're going to do it live and we're going to get them to do speed stacking. Yeah. And I feel like you can always hear the crowd like go like, when he like messes up. This was my favorite segment just because of the emotional intensity of it. I didn't really feel much of anything for a lot of these other segments, but in this segment I was enraptured. It was so good.
It doesn't help it's backed up by a segment where a magician comes out and he does a routine based on laser lights. But as we mentioned before, when they turn the lights off in the studio, the bitrate of the video is so low that we were just trying to make out what this magician was doing.
Yeah.
And it was just completely like unintelligible. Like, the trick is he's hanging clothes on like a hidden wire that's a laser.
Yeah, it's like a laser that he can show that it's a laser. You can put his hand through it, but then it can also support weight. But yeah, it doesn't really translate because we can't really see what's going on. So you know what? To be honest, I feel like a lot of the crowd also didn't know what was going on because there was not a lot of like crowd reaction.
Well, I just think the thing from the trick is that it only works from like one perspective because you have to see the laser and the hanger going onto it.
Yeah.
So if you're like down below ground in behind some beam like you are in most live performances, you're just sitting there being like, "Way,
yeah, it was
yippee."
It was not giving. Like, I'm surprised they didn't do like a, like a
cut Justine in half.
Yeah, well, not Justine.
Not actually, just the trick.
Yeah. Or like doing like, is this your card or some type of like, street magic where you're like interacting with the live audience. They chose to do this
very visual based,
effects thing, and I'm always like, just some interesting editorial choices, I would say, for a live event. I'm like, I think would it not be safer to, have a plant in the audience and like do a card trick? But no, they do I guess it's, I assume if you saw it, it might be cool. We couldn't really see what was going on though. So we, no real thoughts.
We then return to our host, Michael Buckley, who does like a brief bit of stand-up. If you're not familiar with Michael Buckley, he had a vlog, What the Buck, which was like a pop culture commentary channel that was very popular in early YouTube. He has since retired from YouTube. He is a bit older than most people we covered. I believe he's 50. Yes. But I made some notes on this segment because his thing is like, he is like, I was going to say he's quite obviously gay, but from his Wikipedia, he says he's pansexual. Okay. But he is very much like how would we describe this style of comedy? Like mean gay?
I was just thinking it kind of reminded me of Perez Hilton.
Yeah, that is probably a good reference.
Yeah.
Like 2000.
It's like 2000s, like a bitchy.
Yes.
Like, that's literally what it is. He's being like catty.
I mean, the subject matter of the joke is Miley Cyrus, who is 15 at the time.
Yeah.
And the premise of the joke is that initially he shouts out a bunch of YouTubers who have done Miley Cyrus parodies, and they show like a little montage of those clips. So like people like Dave Days, Venetian Princess, who we've covered. And you're like, okay, yeah, that's a thing. And they would do it with Katy Perry as well later on in this live show. But then Michael's like, oh, she's turning 16, so we're going to sing her happy birthday. And then he includes like all of these jokes at her expense, including like a reference where she's like, Miley is looking 35 years old.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting tonal choice for the show because obviously like YouTube knows where their bread is buttered in terms of like who are popular on their website, and like, you know, they need to acknowledge the fact that, you know, these people are getting heaps of views and they are like some of the most popular YouTubers on the platform. But equally, like the type of content they make, which is essentially like, you know, celebrity gossip, like making fun of literal children. Like Miley Cyrus is 15 and they're just being like mean about her. And I can only imagine like, you know, and we've even seen it in like videos and channels we've covered on the podcast so far. But, you know, making jokes about Miley Cyrus. I feel...
There's also a joke in this, and I couldn't even make out the context, where the punchline is, we'll buy that skanking new sports bra. And I was like...
Yeah.
It's very Philip DeFranco,
well, yeah,
misogynistic of the era, and so it is funny to me that Michael Buckley is someone who at the time was lauded for taking on homophobia on like online spaces, when I'm like, but like you are like
a
so
massive misogynistic. Yeah,
yeah, which not the first or last gay person to be like that, but anyway,
yeah, look, I mean, you know, men can be misogynistic regardless of their sexual orientation.
But it was a weird, and probably the only one in this show, like just insight into the edginess that was like a hallmark of like a lot of popular YouTubers at the time.
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder why Google, presumably because they signed off on all this stuff, were like, oh yeah, this is fine.
It's almost like, I wonder if they just said, and now like Michael will do this bit and we'll do it about Miley Cyrus, but like maybe they just like didn't check what he was going to actually say.
Yeah.
Or something. I have no, it's just so tonally off with the rest of the show. And we'll see later on, and obviously YouTube Live is a one and done, but with like a lot of their rewinds, which, you know, obviously this podcast attributes its name to, with the YouTube rewinds, YouTube are really protective of like who they let in the rewind, because, you know, those are the ambassadors of the platform. And you'll see this later, and it's going to be really fun to discuss. But a lot of the time they're really popular YouTubers, and there's a lot of controversy about YouTube not including YouTubers for a particular year who were like the big YouTuber of the year, but clearly, you know, whether it's through controversy or YouTube being like, this isn't really who we want to be as like an ambassador for Google, they choose to steer away from their more divisive or like spicy creators. So I do wonder if like maybe this was something to do with why they were like, let's not do YouTube Live again, because I can only imagine there may have been like, you know, Miley Cyrus or like, you know, her team or Disney, I'm sure they have, you know, maybe been like, please stop like doing this. But YouTube, like by having Michael Buckley do this bit on their like official event, like surely someone made a call to Google and was like, what are you doing?
Well,
like,
it's so interesting that this event basically was announced with the purpose of the following segment, which is awarding the Queen of Jordan an honorary award for her participation on YouTube and her efforts to reduce basically anti-Islamic sentiment.
Yeah.
And like to like showcase like positive aspects of like sort of Jordanian and Arab culture at large, right? And Gavin Newsom, who was the mayor of San Francisco at the time, and I think is now the governor of California, is there giving the award and doing a spiel about how like YouTube is so great for like showcasing diverse voices.
Yeah, like YouTube can be this amazing platform for community and growth and like coming together. Also, we haven't discussed it yet, but it kind of a undertone / overtone of this entire event is that Obama is the president-elect.
Yeah.
And they're attributing that in part to YouTube. Like they are multiple times throughout the show, they are sort of being like, Obama is the president.
Yep.
And Obama, like, you know, a lot of campaigning and like a lot of YouTubers
I'm glad you
were.
brought up Obama because immediately, basically after this, we get a montage similar to the sports one, but it's just politics, and there's just shots of Obama, shots of John McCain, shots of the people parodying them, but just a montage for a few minutes, and people cheer very loudly at Obama. And we get a mention of Obama Girl and Philip DeFranco, two people that we've covered previously. And then we have a will.i.am live performance.
Yes.
If you guys don't know, will.i.am is sort of the leader of the Black Eyed Peas, the hip-hop group with Fergie for a time. It was big around 2010.
Yeah, do you know who the other members of the Black Eyed Peas are?
Apple Diap and Taboo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
See,
right.
I don't know anything about YouTube, but like
Black Eyed Peas.
pop culture, pretty good. But will.i.am is there without the Peas. And you're like, what? Why? Because he's performing his own solo song, which was called It's a New Day. And it was like a celebration track for Obama being elected.
Yeah, they kind of do this sort of another like little montage thing about like will.i.am being one of like the key campaigners for Obama. I did not know that, but
if you look at this album, there's honestly like 25 different like mainstream musicians who did a track for it.
Wow.
So I think you can kind of see how solidly Hollywood was behind the Obama campaign.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, like that's still the case now. Like if you look at the Democrats and who endorsed
I feel like even now,
Kamala.
even if you look at like current stuff, like people could not be really vibing with the current administration, but you'll get so many people who are like, bring Obama back. Or being like, I love Obama. Or people being like, I wish Michelle would run.
I mean, listen to our Key of Awesome episode if you want to know about our thoughts on Obama via the parody Obama Girl, you know?
Yeah. Banger.
But we also get a return of Katy Perry. She does that skit you mentioned with Lisa Nova, and they show a montage of the I Kissed a Girl parodies.
Yes.
Quite notable, not really any jokes at Katie's expense in this live. I guess because she's actually there, people are like on their best behavior. Because we've seen stuff where people are quite critical / mocking of Katy Perry, even in her like popularity era.
All of these like music parodies that were so prevalent and popular at the time, you know, so often they are making quite misogynistic jokes or joking about their appearance, just generally like a slut shamey type of vibe. Was often directed towards Katy Perry. Maybe she wasn't in that era yet. Like I feel like the California Girls era, everyone just was making fun of her.
She was wearing
the same kind of outfits as
she was wearing a hot attire.
She was looking
good. Yeah.
She was looking great. But yeah, it is interesting that they were basically like, Miley Cyrus, like get that skanker sports bra, but they were like, Katie, haha, like you have boobs. Like the jokes were very light on, and were more. The jokes were at the like Lisa Nova's expense. She was playing a character of like a crazed fan.
Yep.
And Katy Perry was being like, "Oh, I'm also a fan of you, Lisa," but like and Katy does the bit pretty well as well. She like plays off Lisa Nova. It could have been way more awkward. So I guess props to the girlies for maybe at least running that one through a couple of times, or at least everyone was on the same page about what that bit was going to be. Is it funny? Not really, but like it's not disastrous, and so that's good.
We follow our Katy Perry segment with a dedicated Fred part of the broadcast.
Oh, so elite.
And it starts with a pre-filmed Fred segment of him doing all of the, the Fred elements. He screams.
Hey, it's Fred.
He looks into the camera and, looks tiny. He does all of the things you love about Fred. But then we have Lucas, not in Fred character. So Lucas, the performer behind Fred, who we talk about a lot in his episode, he comes on stage and he actually has a very, sincere moment where he introduces a musician called Kev Blaze, who was I think pretty unknown at the time, but Fred used that music in one of his videos, and then as a result he blew up and got a bunch of streams. And so you get Kev on stage doing a very I am so grateful to Lucas for including my music in this Fred video and blowing it up. But much like with MC Hammer, it's like there's like a teleprompter delay because Kev delivers each of his lines like one at a time, and then there's like notable silence where everyone's just sitting there and Lucas is just like, and Kev's like, and then he continues.
Yeah.
And it was quite difficult to watch. But it was good to see our friend Lucas, hey?
I feel like, as we're looking at each of these YouTubers in isolation, we're watching like hours of their content. I feel at times we can be, taking them for granted. And then when you watch them in the context of YouTube Live, it's like seeing an old friend.
100%.
Like when they were like, did Fred and they did the segment and Fred's like running up the hill and he's like,
oh, I hated seeing Fred.
Oh,
like I still,
what?
Fred is unwatchable. It's so annoying.
I was laughing. I mean, you were laughing ironically.
I wasn't laughing.
You
no.
were laughing.
At Fred?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I think it could have just been the fact that everyone was subjected to watch like a Fred video live. But no, I love Lucas. He's a king and he's so professional. And at this point, I think he's only like, again, he's a teen. He's very young. And he's like, kind of mogging some of the adult presenters.
Yeah. I mean, when we watched it, you said, I guarantee that Lucas does not remember doing this.
Well, okay, only because in our Fred episode, Lucas has talked multiple times about he would be like reacting to old content and he would literally just be like, I don't remember filming this. Like, I don't remember doing this, because I feel like it was just and you can go listen to the Fred episode where we cover all of this, but it would have been like a couple of years where all he was doing was Fred and he was just like blowing up and he was so popular.
Yeah.
So he probably was filming stuff and doing stuff for Fred like every single day.
This was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember stuff from 10 years ago.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like,
but it's pretty funny though to be watching a video of yourself like doing something. This contextually, the main one was he talks about filming in a grocery store, and he didn't like book out the grocery store. He was just filming in a grocery store while other people were there, and like screaming and being Fred like in the aisle. And he was like, I have no recollection of doing this. Like I think I blocked it out because it was so embarrassing. And yeah, I thought this might also be like, I think in that moment when he was waiting for the teleprompter to keep going so his hosting companion could continue, I wonder if he was like turning off the record button in his memory.
I think he just goes into the Fred zone.
Yeah,
and it's like a different person.
He just disassociates
in his personality, and it's like, I'm Fred, I'm Lucas, and he has
like the substance.
Yeah, exactly. So following up our Fred segment, there is a bunch of music stuff with montages of various girlies who are like, I was discovered on YouTube and then Justin Timberlake messaged me and we got together and recorded, and it's all very much like none of these people became famous. So a classic sort of flash in the pan YouTube cover girly gets a few million views and it amounts to nothing. But, good for them. And we do get a quite exciting interview with a very young John Chu.
Yes.
John M. Chu, I believe his official sort of director title.
Yes.
But he is now known, obviously, as the director of the recent Wicked adaptions.
Yep. Crazy Rich Asians. Yep.
Step Up to the Streets.
Yeah, the best
which
one.
I have seen and
everyone
quite liked.
agrees it's the best one of the Step Up series.
Yeah, and so he, at the time, choreographer and director.
He was doing, this is like pre-Step Up 2, I think?
No,
or
I think
after?
Step Up 2 is like 2004. I think it's like,
Really?
Yeah, I think he had done it at this point.
He's mostly doing like dance or like concert movies. I believe he did the Justin Bieber.
Oh, sorry. Step Up to the Streets was that year, 2008.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think so. He was very like early on in his career. At this point, he was running like a dance crew, and that's kind of why he's there. I will say, I immediately was like, they're like, well, he was John Chu, and I was like, that's John Chu, the director of Wicked. And you did take a moment. You were like, surely not. Like, it must be a different guy. But I was like, no, I know this man's background. I've been on his Wikipedia page. That is the same John Chu.
He directed In the Heights.
Yes.
Wow, I've seen so many John Chu movies.
Yeah. And which was is it the Purpose World Tour?
The Crew? I'll find you the name.
No. The Justin Bieber. You were just on his Wikipedia page.
Oh, the documentary.
Yes, he did the Justin Bieber Never Say Never movie, which I didn't see. I haven't seen. But I know that it was very impactful
Never
for
say
many
never.
fans, many believers.
My heart's under attack. Yeah, good song. Bieber has hits.
Sure does.
I have to stand on business.
Oh, no.
Anyway, so yeah, John Chu is there. He comes back later on, actually. So he gets 2 segments and his dance crew do a performance. Very cool. And We also get a performance from Soldier Boy. Soldier Boy Tellum, sorry,
Yeah.
to use his full name.
His full legal name.
And naturally he performs Crank That, given it was incredibly viral YouTube dance sensation. The live performance completely, and I say this as someone who's been to a lot of rap shows in my life, so this is not some crank opinion, but I literally had no idea what the song was. I presume maybe it was Crank That, but maybe it wasn't, because like I could not tell anything that was going on in that performance.
It was, I think some of these things you could tell they did a run through, and other ones they were like, he's going to rock up and do it. Just like...
Yeah, honestly, Soldier Boy, not someone who's really had much musical success at all post Crank That. Very much like a 3-hit wonder. So I'm not really surprised that the live performance was shambolic, but it was definitely, it continued sort of the descent of YouTube Live. But naturally, we kind of end on a pretty strong point, because we get a interview segment with the Smosh boys, Anthony and Ian, which is nice. Our first Rewind Time episode subject sort of ever.
Shout out.
So always have some affinity for them. They have their cool like 2000s haircut, like the sweepy, like,
swooshy.
the Bieber sort of thing. And they do a little segment bullying the host that's talking to them, which is quite cool. I was like, oh, they didn't want to get them to do sort of a live sketch or anything.
Yeah, I didn't want them to do like Pokemon theme song, but I suppose, but that's the thing.
I would say this was very light on comedy, and
Yeah.
like I said, maybe we're just biased to be watching comedy YouTubers, but there was a lot of like just sincere performance in this
again
YouTube Live.
I think it was YouTube maybe trying to be like, we're not just like, you know, racist viral videos, we also are, you know, a cultural, like I think maybe it was like a brand positioning piece, do you know what I mean? Like they're like, let's highlight stuff that we, you know, think is like good press. It's not as much like a celebration of like what YouTube actually is, question mark. Although at this point, like what was YouTube actually? It was only 2008. So it's really hard to, you know, pinpoint what it was. We were so early on into YouTube. Like I would be interested to see if they did a YouTube Live now, like what that would look like. Because like, do you have the Paul brothers coming out and doing like a wrestling match? Like, you know, because that's what YouTube is. Like, do you have David Dobrik coming out and like getting someone injured and like making them drive a car off a cliff or something? Like that's what YouTube is. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's like a brand positioning piece or?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I also think they just basically probably got a bunch of like live production, like people that work in live production, and they're like, what do you like have experience doing? And they're like, oh, staging live musical performances for an audience.
To be fair, of all of the performances, other than like the magician, which I don't think it was really his fault, like they were like, come and do your thing, and he did his thing, which just didn't translate very well. But all of the live like magicians and performers, like dancers and things like that, they all did a really good job. It's just that it's not like when we're talking about YouTube, that's not what we think of. And the actual most disastrous parts of this live stream were the YouTubers like going off script or, you know, making off color remarks, right? So I suppose they probably did the best they could while still incorporating it. Like,
Yep.
but imagine if like the entire show was just like Michael Buckley comedy stand-up bits. Like that would be like such bad vibes. And like even that small segment was kind of bad vibes. I don't know. But we do, as you said, have a good moment, a shining moment of our king who was clearly a reluctant headliner.
We have the performance of Welcome to YouTube, the debut performance by Burnham. And I know we spoke about it on his episode, but I do now, with the full context of YouTube Live, want to talk about it again, because when you see what surrounded it and the context that he performed this, it's like so... It's actually, what it reminded me of is Kendrick at the Grammys, when famously he lost and he did a live performance, and everyone else like trots out their like Grammy nominated stuff, but like Kendrick did a full freestyle, like new lyrics, new everything, referencing like the ceremony he was at and like his journey through music and everything like that. And this is like Bo's version of that, because the Welcome to YouTube song references all of the YouTubers who are present and like YouTube culture generally in a not like super critical way, but not like he's not overly positive about the platform either.
I think he's saying it like it is. Like there is a bit of and I get this vibe where you're just kind of like, yeah, like we have all these people here, but like ultimately, like what are we doing? Like this is like, it is what it is. It's insane. It's like, it's crazy that, you know, he does a bit about Fred and he like laughs his way through it. Like as he's doing the bit, he's like, this is such a stupid bit.
And I think YouTube and Fred are so cool, but he does it in the Fred voice.
So cool.
Yeah.
And then he's like, and he's like shaking his head as he goes through it.
But the song is like a classic Bo Burnham bit. Like it's very like well performed. It's like a piano ballad. He is singing throughout, and he is obviously like, even when he's like here like a child, like a really incredible performer. We have the crazy introduction where Katy Perry, who defamation zone. She's someone who, if you go to the sexual misconduct section of her Wikipedia, has several notable sexual misconduct allegations from other teenage boys. But she does introduce him with a joke about him being legal.
She goes, he's just 18.
Yeah.
And thank God he's just 18. I was like, no, Queen,
It's a classic thing where if you have a spotless record, you can get away with a joke like that. But when there's any sort of allegations from teenagers on your public
Wikipedia
profile,
page.
you cannot be doing things like this, Katie.
Yeah, it's giving, it's like proto Sabrina Carpenter, like trying to do the, you know what I mean? Like the like sex kitten kind of tongue-in-cheek thing, except it doesn't really come off as tongue-in-cheek because and also the best bit is when she hands over to Bo Burnham, he goes, "Thank you, Mrs. Perry." It's very
thank you, Mrs. Perry.
Thank you, Mrs. Perry.
Yeah, the thing where he's like, and I'll just pull this line out, but before YouTube, I was just a skinny white kid that thought he was funny and cooler than he actually was. And now, well, not much has changed, but I have a ton of money.
Yeah.
Which is like, yeah, that's kind of what it is. That's kind of what it'd be like to be a YouTuber, right? Because like he's someone who has, you know, spoken about how he is like quite socially isolated and like has various like struggles with his mental health. But like YouTube brought him enormous success, but it doesn't require you to really interact with anyone in person or, in his case, even leave his bedroom, right?
Yeah, being a YouTuber do be like that. And also, I think something Bo's talked about, like, because I think he has, you know, a bit of, like, not imposter syndrome, but, like, imposter syndrome or, like, self-image and stuff like that, which I think, you know, a lot of creative people have. But you can't, I guess, when you're doing YouTube, you don't, like, have an audience in front of you, so you don't have to, like, actually connect with the numbers that you're seeing. But when you're performing live, which obviously Bo Burnham does not do anymore, it can be kind of hard, like making that leap, as opposed to, I guess, when you're a live musician, you kind of go from playing bars and small clubs and stuff to then, you know, playing stadiums, which I suppose Bo did do as well, but much more rapidly, I think, through YouTube. Like he was someone who was just in his bedroom and then was immediately, you know, within a matter of like a year or so, going on like sold out national tours. So I think mentally that's like a weird, I mean, it's a weird thing to comprehend for anyone, but I just think the nature of YouTube and virality, you're kind of skipping that middle step of building your audience over time and getting used to it. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just amusing.
I mean, and we also, again, note that this was the end of Bo Burnham, the YouTuber. Went out with a bang.
Yeah, a banger.
Like, honestly, kind of an iconic mic drop.
Yeah, he said, I'll do what I can to fix this YouTube live, but
I think he just looked at it and was just like, no.
Every time the camera cut to him, he was completely deadpan. And I know that's like kind of his persona or his bit.
Yeah, I think he's playing it up a bit, but also
I think that is probably how he feels.
I think it's like, you're like, well, I can build a career here with like these freaks, or I can go and be a regular comedian. Not that those people are much better, but they're probably maybe a bit more adjusted than some of our early YouTube
There was not a lot of media training happening here. There seemed to be a lack of guardrails and being like, hey, maybe don't make a joke at the expense of like a 15-year-old girl. They said, nah, but it's funny though. That's what my audience likes. That's why they like me.
We finish up with a pre-recorded segment from Happy Tree Friends.
Okay.
We haven't covered them. I'm not familiar with it.
I'm aware
You've
of
watched
it.
them, Happy Tree Friends.
I'm aware of it. It
Yeah.
was like a thing that you would show. Have you seen Salad Fingers? Do you know what that is?
I've heard of it, but I couldn't really tell you what it is.
Really? Okay.
I might have seen it.
It's like a thing where you would like show it to people as
like
a prank.
a spooky pasta sort of thing.
Creepypasta?
Yes.
Yes. No, it's the sort of thing where you would show it to people being like, oh my gosh, look at this cute cartoon. Spoiler alert, if you don't know about Happy Tree Friends, the thing is like they're really cute and then they die and like get maimed and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would be like a thing where you'd show it to people, like to children, other children that you know, to like prank them.
Okay.
It didn't happen to me and I did not do it to other people, but I have friends who were, I think at quite a young age, quite traumatized by it. Like they'd be 8 and someone would show them.
I don't think they just get killed, right? I feel like it's not that bad.
Yeah, but like if you're 8 years old, then you're like,
yeah. I was more interested in watching things like car accidents and various other misfortunes that happen to actual people. So the animated
you say
bunnies
that like you don't watch dash cam videos now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
when are we going to cover?
I will very briefly indulge me, but when I would have been in, say, like grade 9 or 10, we were in the computer lab, and it was our on-paper service for Amnesty International, which was a way for me and a bunch of other degenerates to get out of doing compulsory like military service at the school. And at the time, it was the Arab Spring sort of revolution, and I was aware that in Egypt there was a video of a car smashing through the protesters. And I told my friend to Google this video because I was like, it's crazy what's going on in Cairo. And so he just put in his Google video search just Egypt run over and started watching this video. And the teacher came round and was there, and he didn't know that the teacher was there. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to ignore this. And the teacher was like, oh, like, what are you watching here? And he was like, oh, sir, I'm trying to like build empathy for the position of the people in Egypt as they're like, protesting against the regime. And so of course the teacher had to be like, oh well, yeah, like it's terrible what's happening there. But of course, like actually we were just like, wow, that car do be going through that crowd.
You
That's
guys
crazy.
are so psycho vibes. I just don't.
Better than being in the military, bro.
Well, yeah. But like, yeah, you guys are crazy for that. And yeah, not YouTube, but it makes me think of like Yes, Yes, No. And what was the other one? It was like Seconds Before Disaster or something.
I don't know what that is.
I hear like, no, I don't know what they are. And I'm like, yes, you do.
Anyway, I'll pull us back. So YouTube Live, we get a big closing number. They've been promising Akon, singer of Lonely, singer of like Beautiful Girls, I want to say, and
Convict.
Yeah, the album Convicted with a K.
Did you know, may I editorialize?
Yeah, sure.
I'm very familiar with Convict by Akon because after my parents divorced, that was my dad's ringtone.
Why is the divorce relevant?
Oh, because he also, is this Akon or someone else? Is it One Republic? Who does It's Too Late?
That's One Republic.
Okay. Well, he was in his baddie era. He said, convict. He was in his like, he started listening to a lot of like rap and like R&B.
It wasn't that just like pop music of the time though? I don't think Akon is rap.
Well, I think my dad thought he was pretty swag.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
My dad is white, obviously.
Okay.
I don't know. He was in his like, I don't know. He started, because we used to just listen to like Coldplay and like.
I would say Coldplay is way more divorced out energy.
Yeah, no.
Have you heard Fix You?
Yeah, No.
Have you heard Yellow?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
We listened to that pre-divorce.
Okay.
So it was like white guy music. We were listening to like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Coldplay and stuff.
Yeah.
And then it was like divorce, and he was immediately Black Eyed Peas, Akon, which funnily enough, my dad probably would have really enjoyed YouTube Live because it's all his favorite guys.
Yeah, well, before the Akon performance, it's like they gave the direction Akon isn't ready. You guys need to fill time.
Oh, this was so
we
painful.
cut back to the green room where Smosh is there and our presenter is like, guys, what's happening? And it's giving there either as a bit being like non-interactive or they are just like, this will be funny. Let's not say anything. Because they just give nothing and they're sitting there and no one's really saying anything. And then it's like directors like Akon's ready, and they just cut back to Akon starting the
feel
performance.
Like the thing that was mortifying to me was I was like, you can't decide whether it's a bit or not, but then they clearly are doing the bit where they're just being silent. I think it's meant to be a bit, and then they decide to like, oh, they've gotten the message, like still keep going, and they go, okay, well, we can't like just leave it like this. We dead air. We have to start doing something. So they start talking, and then they immediately. Oh, she asks like each of them something. She's like, okay, I'm going to ask Ian and then I'm going to ask Anthony. So she goes, Ian, answer the question. And then she goes to give to Anthony and she's like, but no, we can't because Akon is here. So it's like,
Convict. And then we get a performance of Right Now, Nah, Nah, Nah by Akon, which obviously like goes off because Akon is like
a star,
a professional. Yeah. He's fully like he's crowd surfing.
Yeah. Those like 9-year-olds who were interviewed by Michael
with
Buckley.
The audience. I was like, go off, but he's fully in the crowd.
Flips.
Yeah, he's like completely going off, and it's great to watch.
Yeah.
And that brings YouTube Live to an end. There's a little teaser for the Tokyo broadcast, but and then that's YouTube Live over.
No, for the next half an hour, they then just play like to stock music or something. They just play clips of YouTube Live. Like mashed up.
Oh, there's the end show. It's
not even an end show. It's just like they're just showing clips from what we just watched over music. It's very bizarre. But I don't know why they did that. But
when you like see, they normally have a little tail on like live
but you might
events,
do like
people like leave their screen on, so they just like keep the video rolling.
Yeah, I was like, why? Like they're just re-showing the cup stacking. I'm like, stop. But yeah, that's YouTube Live. That's the end.
So now that
the end
have finished YouTube Live, and first of all, what did you think?
Certainly a live event.
Honestly, I
could be way worse.
I think that the reputation is unfairly earned, and I think if they'd done it for the next year, they easily could have built on what they did initially, and it would have been like perfectly watchable. Because I think a lot of people got what they wanted out of the event in that they saw their favorite YouTubers in the same room together.
Yeah, interacting.
Yeah, and from a community perspective, something we spoke about with VidCon is that like there is enormous value in letting your collaborators all be together in like an actual physical space rather than online. And I know it goes against like, the whole ethos of YouTube and like being able to be like, well, we can just all do this like remotely via the internet. But I think all the creators that participated in the like live and physical events are all like, yeah, this was like really rewarding. And it's interesting that YouTube themselves were like, it's not really our job to facilitate this. Like, we'll just leave it to you guys.
Yeah, I wonder what metrics they were using to measure success. Like, did it not get the viewership they were hoping for? Did it not get the press? Like, was it just generally like not the vibe they were going for? I assume it's that.
Yeah.
More than anything, because it seemed like it was a good turnout. The production itself, like, obviously there were some awkward bits, but that happens with every live event. I think at one point I did turn to you and make a comment, and I was like, well, this is better than watching the Logies, which some of the broadcasts of the Logies, which the Logies, if you don't know, is the Australian like TV awards. It's like the Emmys for Australia. And watching the Logies, like the last time I watched the Logies, every single presenter and like award acceptor made multiple jokes about how they wanted to leave or like how much they like didn't enjoy being there. Like that was the primary bit. And I'm like, that is crazy work. And the Logies also goes for like 4 hours. It's like really long. So,
Yeah, I almost feel like, I know the Streamies and the MTV Video Awards and all that stuff exists, but there would have been a space for YouTube to like reclaim an awards format and then pair that with like the live performance and host stuff.
Yeah.
And they could have had their like Oscars equivalent.
Yeah.
But yeah, for reasons that we can only assume, YouTube were like, it's not really our job to facilitate a culture on this site.
Yeah.
We're just the custodians and we're the gatekeepers and take our ad money, and you guys are the people that will determine what is the culture,
We've talked about FanFest Live and we've talked about like YouTube Rewind and stuff. So it's not that they don't ever do like community events again, but clearly this format they decided was a no. Or at least they were just like, I think they leave it for quite a while. the rewinds as we know them don't start until 2010 from the top of my head. So they kind of give it a good couple of years where they're just like, oh, we'll just do like a clip show, or they don't really do any live events. And again, yeah, VidCon, they're like, let's just leave it to Hank and Green to run that. Hank and John Green. And yeah, the Streamies. The Streamies is the one where I'm like, I'm surprised YouTube don't claim that or try and buy that off them. But anyway, who knows? But
yeah, so that is YouTube Live.
2008.
And that also kind of is a sort of a bookend on this part of YouTube, I think, for us, because we intend to continue covering creators going forward from this point. But I think it is kind of a nice little natural pause for what we'd consider like the OG era of YouTube, which is like 2005 to 2008 or so.
Yeah.
And we will, I think, soon get into some bigger creators. Is there anyone that you want to flag for this next part of the project?
Well, we've talked about him a lot. I think he's on the bingo card that you made. But we will need to begin our coverage of Shane Dawson. I think that will be...
I'm looking forward to it. He seems funny from what I've seen. Like whenever he pops up, the guy's funny. I don't know what to tell you.
He is definitely successful for a reason. Yep.
Shane Dawson, Brick Crew ?
Brick Crew, absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to cover the Brick Crew. I don't know. I'm still trying to decide because I am the person who holds the keys in terms of who we cover each week. I definitely want to get into like Tyler Oakley, Connor Franta, Troye Sivan, like that kind of era of YouTube. Grace Helbig, Mamrie Hart, Hannah Hart, that sort of era of YouTube where we're sort of starting to get into that. I would say like the YouTube boom.
Yeah.
Where like that kind of creator community really sort of started coming out in full force and became a bit more of a mainstream thing. But as always, like please, if anyone has any creators you would love to see us cover on the podcast, do leave them in the comments, either on the YouTube version of the podcast or on Spotify and Apple. You can't no comments on Apple. But if you wanted to leave a review, you can and include it in your review, then please, by all means, do that. But yes, we have so many, oh my gosh, like Dramageddon, James Charles, Jeffree Star.
All of these words
Tati.
mean nothing to me. Except I know Jeffree Star because he's a scary guy and he had a relationship with Kanye West. Allegedly.
Right.
But we're also, it's so exciting that you bring up all these future episodes, but there will be a gap before we record some of them.
Yes.
Because you are going away for a few weeks.
Yeah, I'm going, it's only like two weeks, but I'm going to Japan.
Annyeong.
Nope.
Yeah. No. Konnichiwa.
Jeez. I'm going to Japan for a couple of weeks. I'm doing a road trip through Hokkaido. And look, guys,
sorry. Sumimasen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you weren't saying it to like, you just were saying it to show that.
Yeah, I know some Japanese words.
Wow.
I just showed.
Sugoi. But if anyone wants to check out that content that is going to be coming, I'll be. Am I allowed to do a plug? May I plug? Father, may I please plug?
What? Yeah, it's your show.
It's our show. So if I may be so bold as to plug my socials, if you'd like to see some of my. Currently you'll be seeing the pre-Japan content, but if you're keen to see the Japan content, I'm going to be doing TikToks and YouTube shorts, of course, as a YouTuber, of my Japan trips. If that's something that is interesting to you, then that's what will be happening while we're on break. You know, we're not going to leave you without any content, but will Max be there? No.
Alas, I will not be going to
You're not joining
Japan.
me. It's a family trip. It's a family trip. You were invited, but...
Honestly, guys, I don't mean to hate, but Japan, as an Australian, it's kind of overexposed, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I am aware of the white girl who's been
thinking
to
man's
the thinking man's Bali. Yeah, so we're going to be taking a short break, a bit of a gap, a little bit of a refresh, get our playlists in order, and we'll be back.
And before we conclude, are you subscribing to anything this week?
I mean, I'm subscribing to my upcoming trip Is that?
You're subscribing to Japan.
I'm subscribing to, the country of Japan.
Swag.
Yeah, I am a bit behind on my prep and packing, but that's what I'll be doing after we finish the record.
Nice. I have spoken about it before, but I am subscribing to Clair Obscur Expedition 33. I have finished it. I've rolled credits. If you are a gamer, capital G gamer, you will really enjoy this game. It's very good, and I really have, not much more to say beyond that. So it's like a full 5-star recommendation from me.
Yeah, you're trying to get me to play it as well.
I think you know how much I like a game because depending on how much I tell you about it, is like if I am like, oh, well, you're no way you're going to play this, I'll just like spoil the whole thing for you. But this one, you're like, oh, I didn't really know if you're enjoying it because I was like, yeah, because you're going to play it. So you're going to learn about it yourself.
Yeah, I was trying to ask you. I was like, oh, what happened in the plot? Like, what's happening? And you're like, I'm not going to tell you. And I'm like, okay.
It's just, it's obviously really exciting when you get a genuinely novel and like groundbreaking game, because just the way that, big budget game development occurs is pretty rare, because like it's much harder to make a game because like a software product than it is to like make a movie, make a song, make other forms of art. So it's just super cool that it exists. I really recommend it, and I will come back with a new subscription when we return after the break.
May I ask, if someone wants to play Clair Obscur, what games would you liken it to? Like, it's an X meets Y
It is a Western take on the classic sort of 8 through 10 Final Fantasy entries.
Okay.
So if you like turn-based RPGs, you will enjoy this. But also, if you like Western like RPGs and even sort of action games like Sekiro or the FromSoft series, like Dark Souls, I think you would enjoy this. But honestly, I would give this like an unqualified recommendation.
Wow,
I think if you are any sort of gamer, you should give it a go. Whether that's on Game Pass, where it's like $15 for a month, or you just buy it. I think it's about $60 in Australia. So
okay.
That's it for me. So that is it for this episode of Rewind Time. As Lucy said, you can leave comments on YouTube or Spotify. We will be back in a few weeks' time, and we'll be covering all sorts of exciting YouTubers in the 2009 space onwards. It's been so fun doing these first initial 19 episodes. Thank you to everyone who is listening. Share the pod with your friends. Lucy, is there anything else you want to add?
Don't think so.
Nothing.
Thanks. Thank you all so much for supporting the podcast so far. Every time we see a comment or review, it's really nice to know. Because it's about the community, as we've learnt with YouTube Live.
Yes.
The importance of community. So thank you.
Rewind Time Live.
Rewind Time Live when?
Okay. Oh, I'll do a Bo Burnham song if we do a Rewind Live.
Would you really?
Yeah, I'll do my best like Bo Burnham impression.
I can be Katy Perry on the piano introducing you.
That is actually.
I'll be and he's just 28.
Okay, that is it for Rewind Time, and we'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.